Hello and welcome to the Node.js Foundation Technical Steering Committee meeting on June 20th in 2018. We don't have any announcements for this week, so let's jump right into the agenda. The first item is on Node.js build. It's issue 1337, request for elevated permissions. Joyee, you added that to the agenda. Do you want to summarize it real quick?
Sorry, couldn't find the unmute button. Wait, let me open the issue. Okay.
It's Node.js build 1337.
Okay, so that one was about giving John and Raphael the permission to the info machines and the permission to the core repo and the website repo. So right now, since they are both collaborators, they have write access to the two repo, but they would need admin access to those two repos to set up webhooks and secrets and stuff in order to get the automation to work. Also, since so there are 5 people in the infra group of the build working group. That means those 5 people can access the infra machines that we use to build releases and stuff. But they are not usually around or not predictably around. So right now, most of the time, John and Raphael handle most of the requests to the build working group, but they are not in the info group. So sometimes we would need to wait for people in the info group to appear to actually perform the operations required to get stuff back on track. Like the last week, the GitHub bot was down, but the GitHub bot server is in the info group and no one was around because it's on the weekend. So we'll have to wait for someone who has access to the server to actually bring the bot back. So the request is to add them both to the group that has access to the info machines. But Rod raised concern about the employer and legal issues because they are not employed by like companies that have a stake in this. So one suggestion was to seek help from the foundation's legal committee to set up a contract or like agreement to guarantee that people who have access to the machine will sign those agreements and promise that they would not do anything harmful to the infrastructure. Or we would probably need to figure something out if the legal stuff cannot happen like ASAP. But the situation is we would need people to be able to do this ASAP because right now it's not very working for us. We need people who are active, even like during weekends. But the people who are active do not have enough access to the machines.
Okay, thanks for the summary. And first of all, tons of thanks to MacLover and Refug for the work they put in and to the other build group members who do this. And Rod had these very valid security concerns. It's not that we don't trust you per se. It's just we really have to watch out for all the users we have. This time zone doesn't work for Rod, so he can't make it to this meeting because it's the middle of the night. But I think, Rich, you are planning a meeting that actually works for those time zones?
I don't think we have Rich on the call.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But yeah, he made a suggestion that he'd volunteer to set up a meeting with interested parties, which I think makes sense. I think there's general agreement. We need to add more people. He just did raise the concern that we need to figure out what our process is for that. Basically it's access to everything that controls everything for the project. So
super access.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that I think are worth mentioning on this. One is bondability. So the majority of people who currently have access work for foundation, like companies that are sponsoring the foundation, or in roles where their job is, like, part of their job duties are being responsible for this work. And it's not to say that we don't want volunteers who are not paid to do open source doing this, but more that, like, there's kind of a trust factor that gets introduced by that is hard to recreate for volunteers. And there was a request that perhaps the foundation could talk to a legal committee and try to figure something like that out. That is something that I could follow up on. A second thing that I do think is worth exploring, and joyee, you can let me know if this is really not going to work out, but it sounds to me like there's a handful of pain points about specific duties or specific things that people wanted to do. Like, for example, like relaunching the website. So I think the website is a really good example of something that doesn't need to be on our highest tier of private infrastructure. The only thing that really needs to be on that high level of infrastructure are our assets for downloads. So it sounds to me like perhaps if we did a survey of, like, what the specific pain points were, that we may be able to actually, change some of the stuff in our infrastructure to not require such a high level of permissions to accomplish the tasks that people are trying to do.
So we had a meeting yesterday about some projects that we are going to do for the build, and Raphael mentioned that he's working on some specific, like, scripted RM or scripted tasks that people can trigger without direct access to the machines. So if he can, like, get those stuff deployed, that would somewhat solve the issue, because then people will not actually have to edge into the machines to do the job. So that's one way to work that out.
Excellent, thank you.
There was also some discussion in the issue around, can we figure out, is there some smaller, is there something that makes sense that's less than the full access in the short term to help remove the key pain points? I don't think we found anything yet that's like, okay, we just give this and that helps, but just trying to get the discussion around that going as well.
Okay, maybe we could discuss this in the next build meeting and come up with specific, request for the TSC to approve.
I think that is a great idea. When is the next build meeting? Is it weekly or bi-weekly?
I think it's bi-weekly, so maybe I'm checking my calendar.
It's usually every 3 weeks.
Right.
Would somebody volunteer to schedule an additional build working group meeting that works for Rod and is a bit sooner than the regular one, just so that Refurg and MacLava don't wait forever to fix those pressing issues?
Yeah, I can try and do that.
I think the idea that Rich proposed in the issue. We can schedule a special meeting about this and come up with some specific requests.
Yeah, but he's not in this meeting, so I don't know, joyee, if you want to push it forward, or Michael just volunteered to do that.
I can push it forward.
Okay.
Or Michael can. I can talk to Rich after the meeting.
Yeah, if you want to talk to Rich, that works.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Is anybody here who would like to be invited to that meeting who's usually not on the build group? Then you should chime in on the issue or let joyee know. Okay, thanks joyee for moving this forward. Then let's move on to the next issue that is on the Node.js Node issue tracker, issue 20894, source remove timer wrap. Papirovsky added that, and Jeremiah is -1. Jeremiah, can I pass this on to you?
Yeah. So this is the second PR that in sort of like redoing some parts of the timer's internals. And in doing so, it removes certain pieces of underlying handle infrastructure, I guess, that are in Node.js that makes it it's already hard to debug because of the other one now. Not hard to debug, but hard to inspect. And so now these things don't show up in process active handles anymore. And so you can't actually get at timers anymore without having set up async hooks basically from the start of your application, which is kind of problematic for some inspection tools, such as some stuff that we have at NodeSource.
So maybe one thing. I know we have a PR open or had a PR open, I'm not sure, to make that like process active handles public API. Maybe there is a way that we could return the timers just like in that function.
That's pretty much what I had requested here.
Yeah, but like it's not the job of this PR to like fix up internal APIs, right?
No, but if nothing is done, then, well, we're gonna have a problem.
Right, but like what's stopping anybody from adding timers to process.getActiveHandles manually?
Nothing, I hope. That's why I requested that.
I think those are good points to have in writing on the pull requests. I can definitely see both sides of getting a pull request in and not requiring extra work, and not landing pull requests if they do require extra work. But if we have it in writing, it's a bit easier for people to weigh in.
I think also, I mean, Jeremiah, your objection is that you're asking for maybe a deprecation cycle. Is that?
I mean, that would be preferable if that's what was actually going to happen, but we'd rather that something like that actually works, because for what we would like to do, async hooks, A, induces more overhead, and B, doesn't really work for getting full handle information at any time, because you can't actually keep that anywhere, or your resources will not be GC'd. So
But does the current functionality do that and it's being removed?
yes. I mean, some of it's being removed here, some of it already was removed.
So yeah, I guess it's a bit hard to separate out the already removed from this PR, right?
Yes. I hadn't had time to write up an issue of exactly what I would like in an API that works for it, but I was considering issuing a revert for the previous one. Although I had approved it, I see in hindsight it is also causes us some of this problem.
I mean, but like it's like if you want internal APIs to work the way you want them to work, then that's on you, right? Like not on the PR author, which just touches public API, which like doesn't affect public API. I mean, like I can totally see why you would like to see what you would like to see, but these changes are already Semper Major, right?
Yes.
So you already have like, what is it, like 4 months to figure this out?
I guess key in my mind is what would we be doing if, if this was some other external consumer of this internal API?
I mean, we would also be telling them to like help figuring out a public API that is sustainable, right?
I mean, presumably, also consider that this API has been around for a very long time and has not actually like significantly changed. And it was the only way that people could do it previously, and it's still the only way you can do something. So changing it is like slightly problematic.
Yeah, but like, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna.
I mean, what I wanted to say, like, this is already Semper Major, and like I don't think we've really done like announcements, like pre-announcements for breaking changes to internals before. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, we've deprecated internals before.
Sure.
So I'm wondering if the consumers of the internal API, if they have the resources and the time to help with this. I don't want a PR to be blocked forever. And it's a lot to expect to ask somebody to fix an API that you're the main consumer of. Is it possible that you help Jeremiah or that somebody else helps?
I may be able to, although it was never broken before, so.
Or would you be able to document the requirements you have so we have more of a contract?
Yeah, I can try to do that.
Is that a valid solution for everybody, that we wait for Jeremiah to document the contract and then move from there and deciding where to go with the PR?
Sorry, I had connection issues. What are you talking about right now?
Oh, sorry. We were saying that we at least need to document what we expect from the internal API before we can talk about deprecating it or breaking it or
Okay.
Yeah.
Chuck, I know in the past you've run the tool to see what kind of usage, external usage there is of internal APIs, right?
Yes, I can still do that.
Okay, because I think that might be interesting. If we run that and there's lots of other users, that would certainly inform the decision, right?
You won't catch private source users.
Agreed, but it'll show whether or not there's other, if there's a whole bunch in the public usage, then that's a good piece of information to have, right?
Mm. Made the pull request because I think that I could have missed something because of the connection issues.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Could you give me a link to the pull request, please? Because I could have missed something because of the internet connection right now. Okay, thank you.
So the pull request is Node.js node 20894. 20894.
Yes, I see it in chat.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay.
Sorry, I guess I was on mute. I said, yeah, I pasted it in the chat.
Sorry. So in the interest of time, I would say let's move to the next issue as we still have quite a few on the agenda. And Jeremiah, you have the voluntary homework to write down a little bit of a contract, what we expect from the API.
And just like to add to that, it might make sense to that MDPR that is exposing this as public API. I mean, I know that we have one, or have one.
There's a PR for active handles. It's for public active handles or something like it. Is that what you're saying?
It's PR 21102, and it is still open. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna paste the link in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we'll leave this on the agenda for next week and move on to process add allowed environment node flags property. This is 19335. Benjamin Grew added it to the agenda, and there were 2 -1s on it from Nikita and Jeremiah. So there are a bunch of +1s.
When I read through, it sounded like Chris, whose Bone Skull was had an action to do a couple things, but wasn't being able to get to it until this week.
Okay.
If that's I just see like there's no rush, don't overcommit. People are fine waiting a few days. So I think maybe we could, and that was like 5 or 6 days ago. So I'm assuming that was since we last spoke about it.
And we could just wait a little bit for the changes.
Yeah, I was thinking it might make sense to wait till next week and bring it up again.
That sounds good to me, unless anybody wants to add something. Okay, then.
So there's one thing that I want to add really quickly, which is just for people's awareness. So this issue, add allowed environment. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I thought that this was another one. Never mind. I take it back.
No problem. But you are up next, Node, Myles. Sorry. It's the tracking issue for updating the TSC on board meetings. Issue 476.
Yes, so let me just double check my calendar really quickly. Our next board meeting is next Monday. I currently don't have anything major on the agenda for that. Do people have anything they want brought to the board? Are there things that we need done as far as I know? Just to remind people, on the TSC repo, there is a project board for items to discuss with the board. We have nothing in progress. We have no proposed charter changes. We have the WIG participation policy. I think there was something in there about asking stuff regarding whether or not Node could sign a participation agreement with the WIG, although there's kind of a high level question that I would like the TSC to answer first, and maybe we should get that on a future meeting, about whether or not that even really makes sense, because signing the participation agreement would only cover foundation employees. And so it wouldn't actually cover anyone in the foundation itself. And my concern would be that people could misconstrue the foundation signing it as covering them legally when it doesn't. And then
can you update the TSC issue with a link to that so people can have a look?
Which TSC issue?
The one for today.
Okay, yeah, I'll drop it's another TSC issue. I'll drop it in the tracker.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, other than that, unless anyone has other things for me to bring to the board, it doesn't seem like there's any direct requests from the TSC at the moment. Then I'll come back after that meeting with a report about what was discussed in the public session.
Okay, thanks for the update. Any comments on this? Okay, then let's move on to our tracking issue for the strategic initiatives. That's issue 423 on Node.js TSC. First initiative is HTTP2. Anybody has an update since James isn't here? Then the next one is modules. Myles?
Modules has a working group meeting a little bit later today. We're getting further into the discussion around transparent interoperability. We've had some movement, such as, for example, the opening of the import meta require pull request, which has some controversy on it. If people want to drop in and take a look, that would be appreciated. But we're mostly kind of getting to the point where we're putting together different high-level proposals of like a combination of features and what workflows that creates or doesn't allow. And I think we're getting closer. We're also discussing timelines and trying to be aware of, what kind of timelines do we need to be on if we want to get this unflagged in a reasonable amount of time.
Cool, thanks. Next up is NAPI. Michael, any updates? And you're muted.
Sorry, okay. We're still focused on the doc for Node add-on API and the preparation for the workshop talks at the upcoming Node Summit. So those are the two things that are being pushed forward.
Okay, cool. A Node Summit is at the end of July in San Francisco.
That is correct. There's a workshop, so if people are coming to the conference, sign up for the workshop, and we have a number of talks where we can promote it as well.
Cool, thanks. Then anybody wants to jump in for Rod on OpenSSL? Then Anna, anything new on the workers front?
Nothing particularly exciting, I think. It's moving forward.
Okay, cool. joyee, error messages?
The majority of the errors without codes left in the land are the crypto errors, and I plan to work on that soon, because I'm planning to add begin supports to crypto, and that would touch most of the validation code there. Yeah. So probably going to work on that together. So
okay, cool. Then anybody wants to say something for James on the core promise APIs? Next one is TSC governance, but Myles, I think you just gave us an update. So the Streams API, Jeremiah?
No updates at this time.
Okay, is Tagos here for V8 currency? I think we're pretty well up to date on V8, right?
We do have one issue for 6.8 related to the OSX. Potentially needs a new version of, well, it looks like it needs a new version of the developer tools. And there's just some concerns about how we're going to get that in place. So that's just one potential issue.
Okay. Then next one is Ali, async hooks.
Nothing major to report on async hooks. There's a PR open for adding the current resource to the async hooks callbacks, but I think that's currently blocked. And I don't know if Matteo has taken a look at it again, but that's pretty much it.
Do you have the PR number handy?
I will look it up and add it to the meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you. Then the next topic is NPM integration. Myles?
Nothing to report right now. I've had some conversations with the NPM team, but nothing that's actionable at the moment.
Okay, and then the last one also, Myles, open web standards.
Gus is going to be going to the TC39 meeting coming up and representing Node. I personally will not be at the next meeting. There's some good conversation happening in the issue that was mentioned earlier about our participation in what working group. That's all that we have to report at the moment.
Cool. Thank you, Gus, for representing Node.js at TC39. Okay, that was all the strategic initiatives, and we have another issue on the agenda. It is a proposal, add all new core modules under a scope too late for HTTP 2. That is Node.js TSC issue 389. And there weren't any updates since last week, so I'm not sure if we need to discuss it. 389. So I think I'll leave a note on the issue tracker reminding all the TSC members to look at this and chime in so that it doesn't stall forever.
Sorry, which issue was this?
389. It's about adding the modules under a scope. Are there any issues that we didn't discuss yet? Then we can move on to Q&A, but I don't see any questions on YouTube. So that's the end of the TSC meeting. You find the dates for the upcoming meetings on the Node.js Foundation calendar. Thanks for listening in, everybody. Bye-bye.